Welcome to the bread bank. We sell bread, we sell loaves. We got bread on deck, bread on the flow. Toasted. Bro, shut the fuck up. Listen, I just need a baguette and a brioche. We don't have either of those. You can get the gluten-free white bread, the potato bread. What the fuck is gluten? Take that shit out. It's gluten-free. I don't care if it's free.
Hey everyone, welcome back to more Flesh and Bad. And today I want to revisit our Terra deck tech that we did. I think maybe it was last week or a couple days ago. But yeah, anyways, I wanted to kind of revisit the Terra list, and I think I'm going to title this video something like "You're playing my Terra list wrong," which is mainly clickbait to get the views. However, I do think that there are some opportunities to improve the community win rate here, and I want to actually frame this conversation from a perspective of like talking about sideboarding, which I think is a very important skill in FaB. So there was this article. I was looking for it on the FaB website, but I think Pankaj wrote this really good article on sideboarding. I think this was around like the heavy hitters meta. But he kind of talks through a lot of like the different kind of concepts around sideboarding. So if you want like some additional reading, I think this is a really good article that covers kind of like some very important concepts like overlapping. I think is a very important concept that we'll kind of get into when I discuss my sideboard for the Terra video, right? So I think overlapping is this concept where you have cards that are like in your sideboard that are good into one matchup, but they're also really good into another matchup, maybe for a different reason, maybe for the same reason, that kind of thing, like D-reacts, prevention effects, stuff like that. So really, really cool article. If you want to go check it's pretty short read. So if you're looking to get better at sideboarding, this is, I think, a really good resource. But yeah, let's go and talk about the community win rate for the Terra list. So if you look at my personal win rate, well, I guess we'll go to my win rate first. So I'm sitting at roughly like an 88%, maybe around 90% if you want to flatter me a little bit. Win rate with this old Terra list. So I think the main struggle matchups for the list were like Chane, Ira, and then like you have some like maybe some minor problems into Assassin, and maybe you lose to like a random like Fatigue Briar or something. But basically that's where most of the losses come from over 90 games. Now I look at the community win rate. So actually, like if you take a look at some of the matchups which I've basically been quote unquote unlosable, I think Bravo Fluttering Showman's really easy. I think that Icelander, we only have one game, but like across my different lists is pretty easy. Oldham's pretty easy. Lots of lists that are actually like pretty simple, like pretty easy to beat, just like you have a very, very favorable win rate into them. So now let's actually compare this to actually the community results. And we've actually gotten a lot of good data from the community results as well. So we're sitting at a little bit of a lower win rate percentage, sitting around 60. And I want to kind of point out like the core problems I see. So this Azalea win rate is a little bit low. So we have like 5 losses in total out of 4, so like basically below 50. The Bravo Flattering Showman, this win rate actually surprised me probably the most, because this matchup across like both my Terra lists has been like pretty much free from my perspective. So I'm curious to see like how we're losing points in here. If I had to guess, this is actually due to like miss civic steps blocks, like blocking, giving the quicken too early, and then you're leaking a bunch of damage, that kind of thing. But actually, what the community is doing actually quite well is into Chane. 8 and 4 into Chane is actually a really good job. So whoever is practicing into Chane, like you're actually doing a very, very good job with this list. Like this is very, very surprising actually from the community win rate. So kudos to whoever's testing against Chane. Well, the Briar win rate's like a little bit lower than I would like, so we're sitting at 11-6, but that's above average, so we'll take it. And then I see 2 losses in the Dromai, which again, this matchup's like pretty easy as well. A couple of losses into 5. I mean, 50-50 into 5. That's not bad. But yeah, 5 I've also not really struggled too much into. And then Ira, we're actually doing pretty okay in the Ira win rate as well. So like 12 and 7. What else is different? I guess this Valda win rate's like a little bit low. Like 50-50 still feels like a little bit low to me. But otherwise, we're like actually doing like not too bad across the board. So yeah, we're seeing like some losses to things we expect, like into Kano, like that's a little bit of a tougher matchup, into Enigma, that's also a little bit of a tougher match. So like overall, the community is doing actually a very, very good job with this deck list. So the things I want to actually kind of talk about is sideboarding with this list, because I think I put together some matchup notes, so like you can go like read them here. But the important thing to know, not just in addition to like the having the sideboard plan and then also having the notes, but is like understanding how to use your cards, I think is very important. So I think like if you're using this list, you're probably also using the sideboard, which makes sense. So you know what cards are going in, and you also have notes for I guess like why certain things are like very important in certain matchups, that kind of thing. But knowing how to apply the cards is really important. So the one thing I wanted is just for like Flattering Showman, for instance, we were looking at that win rate that was a little bit low, is to try to like cash your D reacts or like hold them for a turn where they're trying to go for dominate. That's basically improved my win rate pretty dramatically. So you have roughly, if you look at the list, about like 7 pseudo D reacts. So it's very important to try to space those out, use them when you can, and just like try to kind of outvalue Bravo on like a turn per turn basis. And eventually they'll run out of like ways to basically hold an arsenal, like get over the dominate basically. That's typically how that matchup goes. And basically you just like outmath them, whittle them down, and that's kind of how it goes. So yeah, it's very important to space out your D reacts, make sure you're getting your sludge value, and then also just sending like good numbers when you can. So if you have the option to between like sending a boulder drop as like a 3 for 7 and then sending sludge for like a 2 card 6 or whatever, it's often actually better to send the boulder drop just because you're getting that one additional point of value. So very, very important to just like outmath Bravo. So that hopefully will help improve the win rate. But I think you all are actually doing like a pretty good job with the list. I think that was the main matchup that stood out to me, but otherwise we're doing not too bad. Similar concept with Azalea actually. I think the Azalea sideboard is actually like pretty similar if we look at it. Yeah, so if we look at the Azalea sideboard, pretty similar, just running your D-Reacts or Oasis. So like very similar concept to Bravo, and you want to be very careful about like spacing out your D-Reacts, making sure you get good use out of them, and eventually taking them to a fatigue end state. Azalea is kind of one of those matchups where you don't want to race as much because they'll eventually run out of steam. So blocking as much as you can, especially when things are dominated, is kind of like the key to that matchup. And you do have some additional complexity there about playing around release attention, which is the main card that can get you there. But those are two matchups that I think we can do a little bit better on. So I'll try to see if I can get some gameplay today to kind of showcase the matchup. But overall, like we're doing, I think, a really good job as a community. Again, the Chane win rate, the Briar win rate, and the Ira win rate are all super, super good. So I'm very, very proud of that. To have the community, which maybe has less practice on this list, also being able to put up some good results. So yeah, with this out of the way, I wanted to actually cover a couple little tweaks that I've been making to the battle hardened list. So these are some things that I'm still testing, but basically we're going down on some of our earth count. Like I think we basically dropped the 2 Summers Falls just because I think they're a little bit more niche in terms of application. They can sometimes be like kind of useful, like especially into like Aura Guardians, into Enigma, but Enigma is like a bad matchup anyways. There are some like niche applications for Summer's Fall, but I think that the Flourishes actually just might be a better stat line, just being like a 0 for 2 kind of go again that also just is like an earth blue for your pitch is really nice. And I'm going to try out the one of Battlefront Bastion today. So this is actually pretty useful into just like Ira, so maybe this will help up our Ira win rate a little bit. This card's not bad. The stat line's pretty good, so you're just getting a 3 for 5, which also synergizes with your Titan's Fist, which is really nice. And then the rest of the deck feels like pretty streamlined. So we're running roughly 8 Earth cards here, so it should be probably, hopefully enough, especially for those longer, grindier matchups. And then we have a lot more blocking density for the more like normal mid-range matchups. And again, the sideboard hasn't really changed too much. I'm mainly just messing with the blues. But again, I think it's very important to not just have the sideboard and also have the notes for the sideboard, but also like understand like how to use the sideboard effectively. I think that's like a very important concept. And I actually kind of want to talk a little bit about like how I arrived at the sideboard, right? So you'll see that there's like this main deck core basically of like 34-ish cards. So having like a main deck is really important. So you want like the majority of your cards to be played in most matchups just because they're like really good values. So like Canopy Shelter goes into most like every matchup, like Boulder Drop. I think Siren's Fall, like Sirens of Safe Harbor might be, but yeah, there are a lot of cards that you want to just be running in every matchup. So like most of the time you run your blues in every matchup. Most of the time you run your like decent reds like Renounce Grandeur and Boulder Drop in every matchup. And then you a lot of matchups you end up running like most of your flash cards anyway. So this is like in my mind kind of like the core of the deck. And then the sideboard slots are meant to kind of like fill out the rest of that core, right? So we have like our staunches for kind of like our big guardians, which can be a little bit of a hassle sometimes. So these are like meant to kind of like target those, but they're also like have some decent overlap with Briar. Like we're talking about like overlapping sideboard, right? And you're in the article we were looking at later. So these have like a nice overlap with Briar because she tends to go a little bit taller, and they also have nice overlap with Guardian. So like that's why like these cards in the sideboard. Similar thing with Oasis. Like Oasis has really nice overlap with like Guardian, Azalea, just anything that has like evasion basically. But they also have really nice overlap with like wizards, right? Which is really cool. And then Polarity has like really good overlap with like Rune Blades or like just anything that deals like arcane damage. And then also having overlap with like the wizards that also deal arcane damage as well. And then the Humbles are just like generically good value. Most things care about the hero ability. And most heroes also care about being pummeled. So like this is kind of how we arrived at the sideboard, is just like making sure you have a flexible toolkit that can basically apply to any matchup. And like you can shift it in and out depending on how aggressive or defensive you basically want, which is really cool. But yeah, with that sideboard, I guess, discussion out of the way. Again, sideboarding is like a very complex topic. I might try to do like another video at some point where I talk about, I guess, from my perspective, like how do I build a sideboard and how do I utilize that effectively. If you're interested in that, let me know. But yeah, we'll go ahead and actually, my idea for today is to actually go ahead and use a timer. So I wanted to work on this like iterating list basically. So I'm about 10 games in, just like practicing with the list, 100% rate, by the way. We've been practicing into ideally some meta decks. So I've been testing like FaB Foundry Spot just to see if that matchup like changed at all. Briar, Chane, Ira, like all pretty much standard, like pretty meta heroes. So we want to try to get as many meta heroes today. So I'm actually adding this timer so that, you know, I'm not like cutting out any games or anything. But yeah, we're going to try to see if we can get as many meta heroes as possible. I'm going to try to focus my practice into like the best decks. If we see Enigma, Tegan will put a like funny thing that I just like left the lobby or whatever. But yeah, we're gonna focus our practice on like meta decks. I'll show you how to play the deck, and then we'll hopefully try to up that community win rate just a little bit. If we can get that to like 80 or something, then I think we got a really solid deck in our hands. But yeah, with that, let's go ahead and get the game, see how it goes. Oh yeah, I also wanted to mention that we're not going to do the like FaB Foundry ad at the beginning of our videos anymore. Instead, I'm going to do it verbally every single time we record a video. So today's video is brought to you by FaB Foundry. They all have a lot of cool FaB products like singles, sealed products, playmats, tokens, accessories, you name it. They're our one-stop shop for all things FaB related. So if you can, please go check them out and use our promo code for a nice little discount. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the games. All right, I'm starting the timer now, so let's go ahead and see what games we can get. I'm just going to do the looking for meta heroes queue, and then if we're into Enigma, I'll probably just like leave the lobby, but Tegan will, I guess, add me leaving. All right, first game will be against a Chane. Let's see how this goes. This is a matchup I've been practicing a lot. Still like the double Oasis for this matchup. That's actually one of the reasons why I've had a hard time cutting the second Oasis. It's always just felt like a little bit awkward, given that we want to just kind of block out pummel for the most part. But here we're just going to get some value. I'm going to discard the fruits before they take damage, and then hopefully just get like maybe 2 cards out of them here would be ideal. Go ahead and pop that fruits, and then we'll basically be up 3 value on board plus 2 cards in deck, so it's really good. And we also see 2 blood deck cards. These are actually probably the better ones from Chane, so 2 Phantom rates out of the way is actually quite nice. This hand's a little bit more of a blocking hand. They might actually just try to pop the Goddess here. They do. But we do have actually a pretty good hand for blocking as well as sending. So I think I'm actually going to block with the Battlefront Bastion just so that we get that 1 prevent floating. It'll get eaten by the Reaping Blade, but that's fine. Mainly just want to try to send Titan's Fist on our turn so that we can try to pop that cussing. It looks like, unfortunately, we won't. Oh, no, we can still block the cussing if we want to. I guess the question is it worth it? Send like Titan's Fist on our turn. If we do, then we get to. They have to give us like 2 cards, right? Basically. In that case, maybe it's actually correct to want to try to pop that cussing. It's a little bit awkward to give them armor this early. Actually, I'm kind of tempted to give them this cash in the civic steps early, because they might not have like a great way to use it early on. And if they're not sending damage, if they're trying to just cash a bunch of like rune chance for us, like they're not going to be pressing our light toll for a little while. But I think I'm a little bit fine just giving them the early quicken, and if they punish us for this, then I think it's fine. But again, I'd rather just kind of like threaten that cussing, just make it a little bit harder for them to keep that around. It seems like they blocked with a Runeblood Incantation's Shrill, so 2 pretty good threats that I like to see out of the way. Yeah, and sitting on the Oasis in Arsenal is like a little bit awkward, but not the end of the world. All right, they're gonna go for the Soul Reaping, but they're not. Oh, they do have the go. They have to go again off the quick. Makes sense. So they have 1 floating. They can potentially send either a blood deck card or alternatively, we have some options here. Kind of like maybe just leaning into blocking a little bit this turn, like block 6 here, prevent them. They have to like use bodice to pop cussing, and then maybe we just take a little bit of damage so our Oasis are online. I think it seems fine. They just send Reaping Blade here. It's a little bit interesting. Okay, they are just going to catch in the bodice. That makes sense. Hey, they just don't want to take too much blood debt damage. So how do we want to take damage here? So they're coming in for 6. This has go again. Cannot play the Phantom Banshee, although they can swing with the Reaping Blade. So I think what we're supposed to do is just take the 3 rune chance. So take all 3 of these. Get them. We're going down to a lower life total, and then we'll just like double Oasis. This also lets us clear up our arsenal in case we have like another Direct we want to save, or alternatively like a pummel. Notably, they are at 2 shackles, so we got a little bit of ways to go. A little bit of damage here, and then we'll Oasis the. So stay nice and healthy. There was some merit to actually like sitting on the Oasis there, I think. I don't know. It seemed like just kind of nice to get it out of Arsenal, though. Like, Oasis can sometimes be a liability. Finishing another Deathly Wail. Let's hope they don't have too much rune chance set up here. Again, we have been a little bit passive, so it might be a little bit risky here. You have Humble, which is nice, and we can block 6 with the other 2 cards, so we're not in a terrible spot. Just if they do have like a way to start clearing out some of these attacks from Banish, it can get awkward. That being said, if they give us like full tempo here, we do have a really good way to use it. Right. Going for the Shrill. Interesting. So they make a rune chain on the back end. Create an aura. So I think we're gonna just take the 1 point of damage here. They're not giving go again. Interesting. So we could theoretically just rip the humble pummel at them, but maybe just safer to kind of temper our life total a little bit. Block a little bit now, and then maybe we can pummel something later. Worst case scenario, we can always just like pummel our hammer or whatever. They are taking a decent amount of damage to blood debt, and we're stripping their resources with the humble as well. So we're not doing too badly here. Kind of definitely surprised that they didn't make a shackle there, but maybe they just didn't have like a great way to use it last turn. But we have the Renounce Grandeur now. So we could be actually looking at like block 3, send 12, basically. You have a mob in place, so we do have to block whatever the next thing is. So we'll take our 1 little point of rune chant damage. And they're going to be sending a lot on the back end here. But they don't really have a good way to use a Quicken token unless I'm misevaluating something here. So you give them the Quicken. They send Deathly Wail. Oh no, they do it, or no, they don't, right? They would have to. This only makes 1 rune chant, right? So they already popped the Malefic. So they can't play this because it's 3 cards. I believe I'm under the impression that they cannot play anything here, although if I punt enormously, let me know. I think there was actually a punt in the first little Terra video I did where I like blocked Pacific Steps too early. This is coming in for 6, that's fine. We're gonna try to go for the Renounce Grandeur here. Just try to pressure the life total a little bit. We could also like temper a little bit further and blocking 3 here and then not go for the pummel. But I think I want them to be scared of pummel, especially with the rune chance setup they have here. Let's maybe actually give them like a little bit of armor here. I think I don't mind that. And they might be able to use like the bigger next turn, but that shouldn't be a huge deal. Again, they only have that 1 rune chance, so they can't actually rune gate us. They only have the rune hold release. God, if X and Quillhand was legal and Sage, that'd be kind of nuts. We do have to be a little bit careful about E-React here, but I'm still going to go for this. So this will still hit if they do have a React in hand. If we get to stop the rune chant generation for a turn, that's a really big deal for us. And we're also stopping the soul shackle generation. Someone actually, I think, told me in the video comments that if you get hit with Renounce Grandeur, your opponent cannot activate the ability of Chane because it's a cost. Is something that someone told me. Let's go ahead. I would like to make the rune chant now, ideally, but I guess there's not really super strong incentive to do so. I guess the incentive is a little bit more annoying to block next turn. Yeah, I guess we'll still just go. The rune chant now is actually a little bit better than the rune chant later on, right? Because we don't know if we're actually going to be attacking, right? But yeah, our plan's going really, really well. So they have to give us now up to 3 cards here, assuming that they don't have a D-React, and then they're kind of just like not really generating enough rune chants to really get ahead here. That being said, this deck can blow you out of or like blow you up out of nowhere. So you have to be a little bit careful. Again, it's still like a pretty scary deck, I'd say, especially going first. Like if they just get a ton of setup on turn 1, it's quite hard. Also gotta make this timer a little bit smaller. Throw it like, how about that? All right, so we see the pummel block again. Pummel is a card you have to be very, very afraid of in this matchup. So it looks like they're going to have the ability to set up the Deathly, but they're not really caching enough resources to go super, super wide here. And they don't have the resource yet for the Sutcliffes. So the nice thing about our position here is that we can actually start tempoing them with just the hammer. So let's stave off some of these rune chants. I think my goal is to just staunch this, take 2. We're not at risk of getting pummeled here. And then we'll just send the macho in the back, I think is the plan. Again, making the extra 1 might token here doesn't actually matter because they're still going to have to give us a card here. They're basically just pressuring the life total a little bit here. And they are going to go to 3. So now we're basically stripping a card out of hand every turn, and then they're going to have to figure out how to play out their blood debt. That being said, we still have seen there's still like a couple threats that we are a little bit worried about. Like they think they just had to block the putrid stirring, so both of these I guess are out of the way. They only have the Deathly Light set up, but they do have the Ebb and Fold, so there are some things they could definitely do here. Polarity is a little bit awkward here, but we should still be able to use it. And we used our civic steps early, so now we don't have the liability of having to worry about those. All right, so this might be the last really big scary turn here. We just have to worry about potentially another pummel. All right, so we want to definitely take some amount of the rune chanting. So we'll take A0 here. We're just going to take both of these. Now we got to think about pummel a little bit. So they have the rune hold release. They don't have a face-up way to make a. They pitched a red, which also makes it maybe seem like they might have a little bit of a hard time pummeling us here. But it's definitely still possible. So how do we not lose against pummel is like the main question. So we block like this. Block like this, we take 3, go to 3, we discard that. If it's pummel, then they can't. I don't know what they could actually like play out that would help them here. So I think this is safe. Or we shouldn't die immediately from doing this, unless there's some random string of things that they have. We do also have like +4 life padding, assuming we go to a lower life total here. So my guess here is maybe like Bellblade Assault. Okay, they have another cussing. There's the Reaping Blade. I think now we're just going to pivot to being on the defense a little bit. So block 3 here. They have 3 cards in hand, and then they're not getting any additional blood debt. So now they got to figure out how to use this arcane cussing. That being said, if they ever deal rune chain damage, the cussing will pop, so we have to be a little bit careful. We can also potentially just use the polarity for like one additional value, though. I think that's also kind of fine. So, question is, what rune chant generation, if any, do they have left? They have 2 Read the Runes, 2. They have like maybe 1 Red Mauve. We saw the Malefic in their pitch, right? And the Spellblade Assault. Okay, so their hand is Yellow Malefic plus some other unknown card. If it's the last pummel, we have to be a little bit scared of that, I guess. So let's keep blocking. So if they pummel us here, and we take the Deathly, we die. Eventually. Take 4. Take 4, go to 2. Take a rune chant. I don't think the last pummel would kill us here. If I'm calculating this right. I very well might not be. Alright, let's go ahead and just take the 4 here. I'm assuming if they have the last pummel, then they have it, then that's fine. I know a lot of chain lists are only running 1 pummel as well. Could also be that they're trying to like save it for now, maybe. Alright, we'll take the 1 rune chant. So the cussing will pop. And we'll pay 1 with the shelter. So our plan is now to pivot to fatigue, I think. So they can Suck Cliffs, they have Malefic in hand, and then they have 1 other unknown card in Arsenal, no additional blood debt. So I think to just play around pummel, we just go ahead and do something like this. We could also they have 4 rune chants. I think this block makes sense. I feel like it's probably just being played. Or it could also be like a 2-cost or something. What's the last card in their deck, actually? That's a good question. Is it a Shrill? No, they've used all their Shrills. Oh, it could be like a Vexing Malice, or no, they've used all Vexings as well. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what this last card is, but I guess we'll see. So we take 6 here, we have the 2 block here, and then we also have the Blade Beckoner still for the Reaping Blade. I think we're fine. I guess I'm not sure what this last card is. Okay, it was the pummel, but I guess we maybe played around it to an extent where I guess they couldn't. I wonder if they played it on the last chain link. Does that actually get us? Someone do the math in the comments and let me know. But I'm pretty sure the polarity still lets us live there, right? I don't know. Anything could happen. Okay, so that was a pretty good start. Let's go ahead and see if we can get another. Playing the Terra Mirror. Okay, this should be fun. I've not actually played a ton of the Mirror just because like no one really plays this deck except for me, but I guess we'll see how it goes. So I think it should just basically be the standard kind of like fatigue Guardian Mirror. They are going first, is definitely a little bit of an advantage, but there is definitely a lot of room in this matchup for kind of back and forth. All right, based on the equipment loadout, it looks almost like the exact same deck list. That being said, I don't think I run Chokeslam, so maybe they are iterating on the list, which is definitely reasonable. What, if anything, do we want to give here? I think I'm just going to staunch this for 8 to get our max value out of our card and kind of just cycle towards hopefully some better cards. They are starting off with the Might, though, which is like a pretty decent advantage. Yeah, definitely curious about the Chokeslams. I mean, it's definitely like not a bad blue to include. I'm not running Chokeslam. I actually like. Let me double check that. I don't think it's in this list, right? Okay, yeah, we're not running Chokeslam. Cool. They are on some new cards here. Right, so we have our own nice little start here. So we have the Flourish. Again, preserving the Earth card is really important. Let's go ahead and just send the Sledge ourselves. Save our block cards for a little bit later. If we can like control the clashes, they're a little bit better. Not too bad to start. We get to Arsenal Boulder Drop here for maybe a turn where we're not able to like send the full Sledge. And then if we can get some early Siren's Call value, that'll also be kind of nice. All right, looks like they're going to give us the Helmet early, which is really good. Or at least good practice on their part. Generally, the Helmet will kind of lose a bunch of counters to Clash, so if we have an opportunity, we'll actually try to look to use our Helmet as well. All right, Turn Timber is not a bad draw here. Oh, wait, are they running like an older? They might be running like an older version of the list, actually. That's kind of funny. So let's go ahead and use the. I was actually, I think, on Crash on the Gates at one point on on like a previous iteration of the list. So this might actually be the older version of the list versus I guess kind of like the newer version. So this will be a fun little game. Turntable super efficient there, by the way. Kind of glad that they didn't have the pummel, which would have kind of been the punish there. But yeah, let's keep sending our sledge. Crashing on the gates, I think, is a little bit suspect in the Terra mirror, just because there's so many 8s there, but they did hit off of it, which is pretty cool. And Crashing on the gates also does synergize with might, so yeah, a lot of the time it is actually like pretty safe. Yeah, Crash on the Gates is always a card that I think is in the back of my mind. It's mostly like the stat line's fine. It's mostly just like I don't know. I think are better cards right now, or like more disruptive cards. And it being a 2-block is like a little bit of a turn off. All right, coming in for 7 here. Let's go ahead and just use our block cards. We use the Clash of Heads just because we both have our head counters mostly used at this point. I think I'm fine here just sending Sludge. Again, no real rush to like send our Boulder Drop at them. How are we doing on fatigue? So we're a little bit lower on fatigue, but we do have the tempo, which is at least nice, or whatever exists of tempo in these Terra mirrors, I guess. But yeah, it's cool that I've been seeing a lot more Terra on Talishar. I think I was like maybe the only player playing this deck for like a very long time, or this hero for a very long time. Or like the Terra lists that I like saw were just kind of like pretty crap. It looks like they're gonna go for Staunch here. Right, they Staunch for 8. I'm kind of okay with this. A lot of the Terra lists are running like things like Concuss and just like other kind of like bad cards. I'd rather just be running good cards personally. All right, here I think I'm fine to actually just use a Boulder Drop, get an Arsenal, since we have another Boulder Drop that we can just go ahead and Arsenal here. There was actually maybe merit to Arsenaling the Renounce instead, just because the stat line's a little bit better. Or like the on-hit, I guess, is a little relevant. But this should still hopefully be mildly annoying. Again, we're trying to make sure we're just getting the maximum value out of all of our cards here. Right, so we both both reveal Staunch on top. Very, very funny. But I'm also trying to preserve as many Earth cards in the deck as possible here, just so that like later in the game our Sludge is better than theirs, because it looks like they've actually been blocked with an Autumn Touch here. Maybe their hand was just awkward or something. But yeah, in general, I'm trying to like preserve the Earth as much as possible. So I kind of actually want to just use the Boulder Drop here. So we'll go ahead and just like pitch these two, or block with these two, and then Arsenal the Staunch, because I think that's like a little bit stronger. Let's go ahead and just use our Boulder Drop to get out of Arsenal, and like we're not losing a ton of fatigue value by playing it out. All right, double clash, and we lose both the clashes, which is fine. Again, we have our Ironhide Gauntlet there for a reason. So not too bad here. Again, you kind of have to play this matchup very slow and very patient. Just making sure you're getting the maximum value out of all your cards here. So let's go ahead and cash in the Blade Beckoner, and then I think we're going to just use the Baby Staunch or the Blue Staunch here. They did just pitch a Staunch for what it's worth. Actually, they might be on like a slightly higher Earth count, because I think in some of the previous lists, the Earth count was maybe at like 11, so they might actually have like more Earth in the deck than us. That's fine though. Yeah, we still have plenty of time to kind of just fatigue him out here. All right, so he's Glacial, Clash of Heads, need win. That's fine. Oh yeah, we're gonna just try to not use these Civic Steps too early here. All right, so this hand is awkward, but it at least lets us still send Sledge, so that's something. All right, we gotta keep track of that pummel. So that pummel is 26 cards down. Yeah, a little bit of an awkward hand, but we need to make sure we're swinging Sledge every turn. So their pummel is right around the time that we're going to draw our pummel. So the pummel should be now 23 cards down. So we'll try to keep track of the pitch as much as possible here. But given, so we should expect to see the pummel in 6 turns. So turn 13 is the pummel turn. I don't actually know if this version is running 2 pummels into this matchup. I guess we'll see. Right, looks like they're going to cash in the civic steps and also the civic duty. So this to me screams that they maybe have a pummel of their own. We're going to try to punish them for the civic step block here. Oh, I guess they have the somersault here. I guess this is kind of cute. So they didn't decompose it though, which makes me think that this is still a pummel. Interesting. So how do we punish them for this, if at all? Could block like this, and then if they do go for the pummel, we Oasis, and then we just waste the Quicken, which I think is reasonable. This feels like a pretty face-up pummel, so I'm going to try to respect it here. Right, so there it is. Actually, one other potential better line was if we wanted to swing the Sludge next turn, we could have considered maybe just using our Civic Duty there. I think that would have been wrong. Actually, might have even been better. We would waste the Quicken, but we'd still get to send like 8 damage, which is pretty good. Yeah, because wasting these 2 white tokens is a little bit painful. That being said, we got a Quicken out of the way and we got a card down, so like it's not actually that bad. And we know we're not getting pummeled next turn because we know that that's coming up on turn 13. So we can kind of just safely afford to take the damage here and then try to punish them for the Quicken token. So we'll take a little bit of damage here. Again, Civic Steps is one of the quickest ways to lose the Guardian Mirror, which I'm hopefully going to try to illustrate here. But being able to send Sludge for 6 with Go again is just really, really good. There's even maybe merit to double sludging here, but I think I do like gaining a little bit of life off the Siren since we are a little bit behind on the life total race. And it also lets us sit on Oasis, which I guess is another plus here. All right, they do have the Turn Timber. So nice coverage there. Then we can follow up with the Sirens of Safe Harbor here. So either they give us 2 cards or they're taking 6 themselves, so then we're on kind of parity with the life total. But we're also ahead on the Oasis and Arsenal, which is yeah, this I think is actually going to win us the game. Just the tempo swing off the go again turn, basically. Really, really important to not try to use your Quicken too early in this matchup. Like I will not block with this until I am like dying, basically, or I can just like pummel them out. All right, so a little bit of a clunker of a hand here. So we're ahead on fatigue value. So I think the Renounce is actually worth sending here. And maybe they over-respect this, like over-respect a pummel here, which is also very possible. Right, they do have the Clash, so let's see who wins. All right, they lose, which is great for us. They're drawing a Crash down the gates next turn. Right, then we got some nice blocks here. Go ahead and just give them 7. Clash again. And so we took the damage that time, so I guess it evens out. We could have actually clashed with arms there if we wanted to, just to like, because we already have -2 there. Maybe that was actually like a slight optimization there. It's always about getting your 1 to 2 additional points of value in this matchup, right? So I think if we block with Clash of Arms there, it's actually like marginally better, assuming that we know that they have like the Crash down the gates on top. So curious to see if they're going to play the Crash down the gates or pitch it here. All right, they're going to go for the play. Let's see what they got. So they do win. So we would like to avoid getting milled here if possible. So let's maybe do something like... maybe we can't actually afford to block with the Sirens here. Let's do like 5 here. And the question... Oh, maybe this still doesn't work. Go 3, 4, 2. We can actually give them the Vigor token. Vigor token's a little bit safer to give them than giving them a Quicken token. So we will try to block this just because there is some fatigue value here that we do have to kind of concern ourselves with. But we do get a might off of it, and we do also get a point of life, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, we're doing pretty good on deck damage here, so that's great. We did have that awkward pummel pitch, like the pummel and the staunch. All right, so we're also coming up on turn 13. Might be a little bit off. Again, this is kind of why I'm doing the vibes based pitch stacking more than like actually counting. It's hard to like count it and then also like talk through the game. But we should be coming up on a pummel in the next hand or the hand after that. All right, but that's a really good set of blocks for us there. So they're not going to be sending sludge this turn, which is great. They don't have a might, so I'm actually just going to hold on to this Renounced Grandeur here. But yeah, we're very ahead on cards here. So as long as we don't get blown out by that one pummel, which they should potentially have in their hand here, then I think we're kind of in business. What pummel targets do they have left in the deck? Not a ton, right? It's like they use the Sirens, they use the Crashdowns, they use the Boulder Drops. What else do they have to pummel? I guess they can pummel like a Glacial or a Macho in the right circumstances, but like, I guess we're gonna find out. Maybe they're gonna staunch us, also possible. Right, so they get a might here, which is nice and efficient. But yeah, we're still doing really good on deck damage. All right, so this could potentially be a pummel, or no, it can't be a pummel. They might have the pummel in hand, I guess is what I'm more so trying to say. Let's go and give, I guess, the Glacial here. You can also just like block here, send disable, which is actually maybe a little bit more annoying for them. Let's actually do that instead. And the funny thing about the clash cards is they only clash on Guardian attacks, so they're a little bit safer, I guess, against non-Guardian stuff. But given that their arsenal is likely to be a pummel, or they have a pummel in hand, I think sending the disable here is actually worth it over preserving it in deck. But yeah, these are like the micro decisions that can kind of add up over the course of like these longer Guardian matchups. I think this should hopefully be a little bit helpful also for like Ultim and like Showman is just like like the keys to winning the Guardian matchup as Terra are preserving your Earth cards so that you have them for Sledge, making sure that you're getting your like extra value, like if you have the option to just send like a disable versus like Sledge, making sure you're getting that extra couple points of value. And then just like making sure you're just sending like very efficient numbers and swinging every turn is very important. Right, so you have an Oasis here, which is maybe looking a little bit awkward for them. They could have actually used their Iron Heights there. I'm kind of surprised they didn't. All right, so we have our, so there's their pummel. So it was, I guess, turn 14 instead. We could actually take the damage here and just send a pummeled Renounced Grandeur and like make them deal with that. I don't hate that. How many pummel targets, I guess, do we have left? We use the Sirens. We don't have a ton of great ones left, so I think maybe I'm just going to go a little bit aggressive here. It's awkward because it's super telegraphed. I guess maybe I'm like fine telegraphing it. We also just do the safe play and staunch since we're already ahead. Maybe the safe play is better to just like staunch and because we're gonna win on like in terms of deck damage. Maybe we don't actually need to like pummel as our win con. It's also really nice to like have these 3 costs in Arsenal when you have hands like this where you're like not able to send like you don't have a balloon hand, so you're not able to like send Sledge. It's really nice to have like an option to like pitch 2 cards to send Renounce, which is why I still tend to Arsenal the Reds instead of like pitching them away. Right, but we're basically up 8 cards, so as long as we can get to that end game where we're just getting more Sledge math out of them, I think we're in pretty good shape. Let's go ahead and block with our non-Earth cards here as a priority. So we have 9 cards in deck to our 15, so we're in really good shape. We still have some armor to work with. they're eventually going to be at some point forced to give us like civics or maybe even their civic duty. For what it's worth, I think they still should have maybe an Oasis in this matchup. What are their last couple cards? It's like Oasis Fruits. They have another Summer's Fall in there somewhere. And probably just a bunch of blues. Oh, we haven't seen the Canopy Shelters as well, so those are actually going to add up a decent little chunk of damage. We also know that Pummel is like potentially in the next hand because they had to pitch it. All right, they are going to send Thunderquake here, which is maybe a little bit of a desperation play. We can just go ahead and just double clash here. If we lose the clash, not a big deal. If we don't lose, then we get to block 4, which is amazing. Yeah, I think from this position, we have effectively fatigued them. Normally, I think you're a lot more favored going first as Terra because you get basically 2 additional points of deck value. Just because you're the first person to swing Sludge, right? But I think we just were able to outmath them on a couple turns, and then that's just kind of how we won. Right, that being said, they do have the Macho here, so it's not like nothing. We can block. What's the best block here, then, I guess? So yeah, I guess we do have how many more Macho? Okay, that's the last Macho, so we're not like really in danger. Go ahead and just block with the Battlefront Fashion and get the value in now. You know, the funny thing is we could have actually like pitched to the Ironhide just to like make an additional might, but I think I'm fine also like arsenaling the Sirens here. Keep sending the Sludge, forcing a card out of hand, and eventually they will have to like give up the Civic Steps. So that should be their last form of evasion there. You do have to be a little bit careful about Macho as these games kind of go longer. I think they did just pitch their Pummel as well, right? As long as we're not losing the Pummel, I think we're in decent shape. So 3 cards in hand. I think they did just pitch the Pummel, unless I'm like... I probably should be keeping track of it as opposed to talking here. But if they're representing the Pummel, I guess we'll know. Right, they're not representing Pummel. So we can safely just afford to go ahead and block 7 here. And then we can send Sledge, Sirens, make a Might, and we're basically golden, right? So yeah, really important to not use your Civic Steps early. Like, you basically don't want to use these until you're basically dead, right? It's very, like, it's one of the probably easiest ways to lose the Guardian Mirror is to just, like, give up Civic Steps too early. And for those of you who don't know, the funniest thing about Sledge is that you can swing it twice. So that's a lot of fun. So yeah, I think our opponent might be cooked here. Oh, they're running Blue Flare. Okay, so I think this was like an older iteration of the deck list. But yeah, good game for our opponent here. Again, I think that I do have a lot of practice into the Guardian matchup, so it's about maximizing your value, making sure you're swinging every turn, and then also making sure that you're like preserving all your value cards in the deck. Like basically our deck was like almost entirely Earth by the end, which is really important for just like making sure you're generating like might value off a Sludge. All right, let's see if we can get another. All right, playing against an Ira, which we want to go first because we want to fatigue Ira ideally. And let's bring in that last Oasis. I think the sideboards are a little bit messed up because I was tweaking some things. All right, and what do we want to send in here? The awkward part about sending the Glacial is that we don't get to Arsenal the Staunch in that case, and then we're not setting up like a fatigue plan. We could also just send the Battlefront for 1 additional point of damage. I don't love that. Let's actually maybe just go ahead and pitch the Battlefront for later in the game. Just in 4 here. Yeah, we maybe end up getting 2 cards here, or maybe we end up getting 1. But I think I'd rather just like hold on to the Staunch Response for Arsenal. All right, looks like they're gonna go ahead and give us the Tiger right here. So they're getting some nice additional value on turn 1. I think there was maybe some merit to like... Maybe we're supposed to just send Glacial for 8 anyways. Just like force 2 cards out of hand. The math, I feel like, works out similarly, right? Because we're like paying a card to take an extra card versus... I think this is still better, right? I don't know. But we have an Earth card with the Staunch, which is nice, so it should hopefully cover up some annoying breakpoints this turn. That being said, they are going to be able to go like 1/1/1, which is a little bit unfortunate, but again, it's kind of fine if it's on the opening turn. It's a lot scarier if it's like later in the game, right? Oh, it looks like our opponent's on even bigger than that. So I'm actually kind of happy when I see this card, because it normally means that they're basically running a card that doesn't deal any damage, right? So it's basically just a quicken token kind of on a stick. So we basically get to have them be like -2 in terms of deck value, which is really nice. That being said, they might be able to convert that into like damage, which is pretty good. But yeah, I think we're kind of fine just taking a little bit of damage early. And we know they have also that flying kick in hand, so we should have a pretty decent target for a staunch. Right, so here's a nice opportunity to go ahead and use our block card here, and then their last card in hand should be flying kick, and then one other, I guess, unknown card. Yeah, I think we're just gonna nice and cleanly kind of cover this with this staunch. I'm debating whether or not it's actually better to use our Ironhide here, but I think I'd rather just have the might token. So let's go ahead and block. We're gonna overblock this a little bit, but I think that's okay. We'll preserve the fruits for later in the game. And we're just gonna be sending Titan's Fist for 5 on our turn. All right, let's go ahead and use our staunch here. And then we get to send a nice clean 5 here, which is really nice. So how are we doing on deck? We have 37 cards to their 36 cards. So about even still, but we do have a lot of armor to work with. They've used a little bit of their armor as well. So even bigger than that is good information. That also maybe means that they're not on Razor Reflex, because I feel like those typically take a similar spot. Right, looks like they're just going to cash in there early. Seems good. So they're going to keep a full grip for next turn. We do need to be a little bit careful that we're not getting too zealous with our civic steps here. All right, we got 2 canopy shelters and a boulder drop. So I'm potentially looking at just sending the boulder drop this turn. All right, so we know that they are in some number of 1 costs here. So I'm going to go ahead and try to block 4 on this with the steel blade, and canopy shelter. If they do have a razor reflex, it's not the end of the world, because we're basically just getting like 1 additional value on hit. Again, do want to try to ideally block out on hits if possible. Again, this hand also has the option of just not even sending the boulder drop. We can just send like hammer for 6 or whatever, both of which I think are fine. So question here is, do we want to try to push civic steps? I think the answer to that question is no. Debating whether or not I'm supposed to even give up on the boulder drop here. I think I'm supposed to just take 6 and go to 12 here and just see what their next play is, because they did actually cash in all their armor, which means the boulder drop has gotten a lot better. So the boulder drop is going to be demanding 2 cards from their next hand. So we'll take our little 6 damage here and then see what their follow-up is. So no floating. Again, I do like trying to take the game a little bit slower if I can. So blocking 5 here is not terrible. That being said, I think I'm maybe going to get a little bit greedy here. So we actually have like the Quicken plus the Blade Beckoner here. So this actually covers this nicely. We set up a Quicken for next turn, and then we're sending Boulder Drop for 9 here, which will basically force them off 2 cards next turn. So they're probably not going to actually be able to use the Quicken super effectively. They could also end up keeping a 4-card hand and taking 9, which I'm also kind of fine with. So I think this is actually a decent opportunity to use. Yeah, quicken here. Again, I think there was a less aggressive line where we just block with the boulder drop here, but since they did give us the armor pretty early, I think I'm more incentivized to send the boulder drop. Notably, this does get punished by like unmovable, but if they have it, they have it. So we're gonna make them use it, and maybe like they don't have the blues to actually play the unmovable, and then also like do the rest of their turn as well. Right, so we get to send 9 here, which is great. So this will demand 2 cards. Hopefully they won't be able to make great use out of the Quicken, and then this should hopefully slow the game down pretty nicely in our favor. That being said, again, we do get pretty punished by like a movable, but if they just have to give us like 2 normal cards, then I think we're doing really good. Right, and that's fantastic. 2 blues out of the way. I would have liked to ideally see a red there, but not the end of the world. So that maybe suggests to me they had like a 3 blue hand or something. Okay, this hand, it's not as bad as it seems actually. So, Oasis, even like double Oasis here if we actually need to. I think the play is just 1 Oasis, block 3 with the boulder drop on whatever the next thing they do is. Worst case scenario, if like we need to, we can also just play out the other Oasis. But it should probably be fine here. So question here is, do we get punished? Depends a lot, I guess, on what their arsenal is. I'm almost kind of tempted to block earlier rather than later here. Definitely still a little bit of an awkward hand, obviously. Let's go ahead and just cash in our block value. Like, they could definitely send like a 6 or something at us, and that would be a little bit annoying, but I think there's like also a decent opportunity that they just like Kadachi pass. And then we're in like kind of a similar situation. Oh. So let's see how badly we end up getting. I don't know if there's anything that punishes us like super, super bad here. And again, taking a little bit of damage is fine, just so that we can get on the Oasis for next turn. All right, so we do have looking for scrap in the deck, so that is one threat we're going to have to try to keep track of as much as possible. So we're going to take 5 here, which is definitely a lot. That being said, we do have Oasis for next turn, so it's not the end of the world. Yeah, our opponents had actually some really nice draws here, actually. So we're eventually kind of at like 8-ish if you think about it, because we're pretty much always going to guarantee get the value out of the Oasis. So it's more so just about slowing the game down to the point where we can start getting the Civic Duty time walk in. Again, making sure you're navigating to that point is probably the most difficult part. And it looks like we're in kind of like a dire situation. But that being said, we do basically have like 4 or 5 life in the arsenal. So life total is actually like a lot closer than it might initially seem. All right, Sirens of Safe Harbor is also nice for making up some of that life total. So we got a really nice blocking hand, I guess, for next turn. We might not end up even using the Oasis here. Like, it might be more efficient to just double block Sirens and then, like, Flash of Arms or something like that. All right. Dachi coming in seems good. And they haven't shown us the Razor Reflex yet, so I'm not going to play, like, super scared. And I guess we do have the Oasis for backup if they do ever go for it. I'll go ahead and make sure we're getting that nice little Sirens of Safe Harbor value. Oh, looks like they're going to go for the Pouncing Paws this turn. Okay, interesting. So they'll get an extra 2 points of value here. Yeah, we can just keep blocking. Okay, they do have the Razor. I guess the question is, do they have another one? Should we go ahead and just like block this one? It's an interesting decision. I think I'm gonna try to stay a little bit healthier here. So I think we will just go ahead and try to cover this Razor. But that's good information. So they either are on multiple copies of Razor or they're just on the one copy. There's a lot of variety still in these IR lists. I think I've generally seen more so like 2 copies of it. Let's go and just try to get the value out of it though. Or like making sure they're not getting too much out of it. And we do have the clash. I'm imagining they're probably gonna send something to finish their turn here, so I'm holding on to the clash card. So there's the Flying Kick, which gets cleanly covered by the Ironhide Gauntlet and so the Clash of Arms. So we're basically sitting at kind of like a similar life total, and they did use one of their better cards in the deck against us. No, not too bad. So you need to keep track of their 1 cost still. So we're looking for the other looking for scrap, another Bittering Thorns, and potentially another Razor Reflex here. Not doing too bad though. So is this a hand where we can give them the Civic Steps and we won't get for it? It's close. We have 10 block in hand. I'm gonna get greedy. I'm gonna make them punish me for this. And I'd rather use this sooner rather than later. Okay, Snatch is probably worst possible outcome. But we're gonna stick to the plan and hope they don't have another Razor. If they do, then that's the super punish there. Right, and then another Kadachi is fine. They'll probably just end up giving 5 to the next thing. Okay, they're just gonna go for the Legacy for a little bit of chip. That's -1 damage, so we're kind of okay with that. And then we're just going to give the last 2 cards here. So 24 to 24. But again, they have a lot of blues in their deck, so if we can just navigate to the end state, that's where we're going to do the best. All right, Staunch could be awkward, or it could actually end up being really good here. So what targets do we actually have for Staunch? I guess the number 1 target would probably be another Razor, right? Still got some time, though. Actually, it probably is not bad to just go ahead and Staunch this Bittering here. I don't hate it. Let's go ahead and just do it. Go ahead and use that. Do here. Have the gotcha here. We do have like 7 block here, so it's kind of fine still. Still seems fine. Okay, finishing on the Scar for a Scar. We can go to 1 here, or we can go to take 1, go to 3. Yeah, they've had some really good pressure against us. Wonder if maybe that 1 snatch turn was actually the big punt, like giving the civics on that turn. Not right at the time, but maybe not. I'd actually try to time walk them next turn, but like the civic duty I do kind of prefer just like holding on to him. Let's go ahead and just block like this. It is awkward because we're going to 3, so we're in kind of kill range of another Razor Reflex potentially. But it does look like they have like a decent number of blues in their deck. All right, we're going to try to make the comeback of the century here. That being said, I think they've had pretty good stuff they're doing. Right, so we do actually have the staunch now for the razor reflex if we need. Which might seem a little bit funny, but like it does kind of give us an insurance policy. You need to start finding opportunity to just send Titan Fist though. We are definitely still dying at this rate. So the one cost that we for sure know about that they could have is still the looking for scrap here. But they have had still a lot of blues that they're pitching, so we'll hopefully get them to run out here the next few turns. I'm gonna go ahead and give the Blade Beckoner here. And they might also try to like sit on a one cost, which would also be definitely kind of a little bit annoying for us. That being said, they probably should have another Scar still in the deck. So we do have a lot of kind of wiggle room here. I'm going to go ahead and just use the Staunch here because they could be representing another Razor. Go ahead and Staunch this. Try to preserve the deck density as much as possible. We do still have the fruits still up in the deck. I do think for what it's worth that this is one matchup that Terra, or that Oldhim does do a little bit better than Terra. But we're waiting for them to use that last one cost here. Tiger Eye block is actually pretty annoying. These Tiger Eyes have actually been doing a lot of work because they get to now go just like 1/1/1 at us. Pretty gross. Now we also don't have our Razor Reflex insurance. Okay, is this bait or are they actually gonna try to kill? If they have the Razor, I think if they have double Razor, I think we just like can't win this position. All right, if they have it, they have it. Show me the Razor. They have a really good setup against this deck though. I think the flying kicks and the more one cost the Ira deck has in general, the better I think it does. That obviously kind of depends, I guess, if they do have the Razor here. All right, they're not going to go for it on this one at least. Interesting. I wonder why they didn't just go 1/1/1. Maybe they just wanted to go. Oh, maybe their hand is just like bad. Also, I guess a potential win con. 2 Sirens, a Safe Harbor, and pitch. We have to send Renounce Grandeur, I guess, on our turn. Okay. Well, they didn't Kadachi us, which is like I feel like there was there like a better play there? Oh, I guess they maybe couldn't Kadachi because their hand doesn't have a 0 cost or something. Interesting. I have no idea, but we did get very lucky. We now get to send 7 and even out the life totals at least a little bit here. That being said, we still have the 2 Sirens to worry about. But yeah, the more like good like high density attack cards that the Iras are running, the kind of better it does get for them. If we get a movable here, that can also be kind of nasty. Okay, looks like it didn't have that though. Okay, we're almost at the point where we can Kadachi lock them. They just haven't seen that last looking for scrap, which is mainly the card I'm playing around. I'm not going to play around the second copy of Razor because I don't think we can afford to at this point. If they have the second Razor, they just have it. But let's go ahead and try to use up a little bit of our armor here. Mainly just use it before we die, right? Right. That. So what is the play? Theoretically, give them the civic duty here. I don't hate that. Depends a lot, I guess, on what cards they still. They have a Scar for Scar left in their deck. They probably have another even bigger than that. Another Looking, another Upsticks, another Torrent. They still got a lot of good stuff in there. And they also have the 2 Sirens we saw in pitch. Maybe I just can't afford to really get greedy with the civic duty. Maybe we do just have to cash it in here. I'm worried about how wide their hand can go more than anything. All right, so they did use the last looking for scrap, which is at least nice. We can go 4 here. Hopefully block 4 in the next thing. Like if they just have like a scar for a scar here or something, which I think they should still have one left of those. Okay, the torrent tempo might be actually a little bit painful here. Now we do have to give the clash plus the sirens. I guess we can still send 3 here. So they should still be potentially Kadachi locked here. They go to 3, we send 3. Okay, I don't think this is that bad. I mean, they could obviously they could have gotten this with a Razor pretty much any time here. But it does look like they're through a lot of their red cards at least. Maybe we got a little bit overzealous blocking with the buckler early. If we actually had the buckler there on that torrent, that actually would have been a pretty big deal. So that might have actually been the optimization to maybe pull this game back. We'll see what they got there. So them blocking with the blue does signify to me that maybe they don't have the go again. So this doesn't count, right? Because they can't pay the retrieve if there's not a dagger. They do just have to send this for 5. In which case, we could. I think staunch is interesting. Like the question is like, do I want to staunch now or later? I think I just want to staunch now. Oh, yeah, I don't think. Okay, we are, I guess, playing around Razor. Wow, they got really greedy there. Maybe they weren't playing around the last staunch or something. That's kind of like actually insane. If our opponent doesn't go for that and they just like hold on to the other Razor, they probably win that game. I mean, they might still like win anyways. Because if they can pressure, the fruits out of their hand, they might still get us here. But now we are like absolutely safe from the Civic Duty, right? But yeah, Double Razor actually does a pretty good job against this particular deck. Let's see what their follow-up is. Okay, Scar for Scar, they still got us. But I think we did have like a real opportunity there. I think we almost got there. Maybe we had to be a little bit more block heavy. I think they also just had some really good hands, but we'll give them a good game there. So they're basically almost out of their threats. So the Scar for Scar was basically the last red in their first cycle, basically. So I think we got a little unfortunate there that we couldn't use our like Civic Duty time walk quite as well as we would have hoped. But yeah, that is something you can still like play towards. Again, I think that our opponent's setup was like really nice. Like this seems like a very good Ira deck, and I think that this is one of the matchups where I think Old Him has like a slight edge. But I think this matchup's still like kind of favored for us. I think that in general there are just some like very good Ira setups, like particularly the double Razor setups that are very nice against us. All right, that was our first loss of the night. Let's see if we can get another. All right, no, sorry. Let's not see if we can get another loss. Let's see if we can keep winning because I need to look good for the camera, right? All right. Let me show you how this is like the easiest matchup in the world. So this should not be like a what is our win rate on the other list? Hold on. I get to show this live. So Bravo Flying Showman is currently 3-6. So this is not a 33% win rate matchup. So let me try to do my best to illustrate this. But I feel like I normally against like Flattering Showman end the game at like plus 10 life to their 0. So I've not struggled very much with this matchup. All right, we got a really good start, so we can send the disable here. They're on Civic or they're on the full like Civic package or whatever. I don't know if this is actually like a standard Bravo equipment. But we get 3 cards out of them, which is great. Maybe they're just getting some filtering there, but again, this is a fatigue matchup, so happy to see 3 cards down, plus we get some setup as well. I think I am going to try to hold on to my Oasis for when they try to go for like a pummel or something. What do we want to do here? It's interesting. Actually, maybe just go ahead and like give the 6 block here functionally. We'll save the staunch and the Oasis for. It's still sitting at 20, sending Sludge for 7. Still seems good. I think for what it's worth, there is like a decent amount of complexity to like making sure you're being efficient with Sledge. All right, so I have a pummel on top to their disable. Okay, that's good information that they were able to get out of that. Kind of a funny hand. We might actually just like pitch stack the Sirens for later on. Debilitate for 8. What's the best course of action here? So ideally, I'd like to hold on to a red, but we might not actually get that luxury. We actually just capture the Blade Beckoner and then Oasis from Arsenal. Pitch the Pummel for later. Pitch the Sirens for later. And then Arsenal Staunch, which I think is pretty good. But yeah, we don't want to try to prioritize arsenaling the Staunch just to make sure that we get through their early dominate. Because one of the quickest ways to lose this matchup is that if you just aren't able to find your you aren't able to like make the most use out of your reacts. So it's kind of funny. We do have the Pummel and the Siren's Call pitch stacked, which is pretty nice if we ever get to that point. And then we just kind of get to outmath them here with the Sledge Flourish trick. Our Sledge is just always slightly a little bit better than theirs. For what it's worth, they do also have Civic Peak in this matchup, which I think is a pretty decent equipment. Being able to like give me a card when you know that I'm not going to like punish you for it is always quite nice. All right, we're gonna still sit on this Staunch here, and let's just go ahead and cash in our first block value. We already used our head, so we win the clash. We get to take out their head, which is pretty nice. But yeah, currently I think we're doing pretty good on fatigue. I think we're slightly ahead. That being said, we've used like 1 point of our armor, so I don't know. Maybe if you want to factor that into the fatigue equation, but I think we're still doing pretty decent here. Like we have tempo, but we also went first, right? So we're in a real good spot. All right, let's go ahead and keep giving them cards here. What do we want to give them? Yeah, like Clash of Arms, and then also pitch Jack the Clash with the Macho. Actually, that's probably the better play, right? Do something like this. Get our 6 block value here. We want to make sure to put the Macho under the Clash of Arms. This is important in case we ever get to that point, right? And there's a immovable. It looks like they're maybe also doing the fatigue thing. Maybe I can try to convince them to convert to Terra. Here, we can go ahead and just give the canopy plus this, and then make up right on our turn. We're not going to worry about preserving the canopy in the deck since we already have an Earth card we can pitch here. Seems fine enough to just block as is. Like this is one of those matchups where you will win on fatigue even if you're not really paying super close attention to your Earth count. Like using the 1 there to like get an extra point of value off the might, I think is worth it. And we saw like 9 Earth cards left in the deck, right? But yeah, I'm still kind of the opinion that this matchup is like a 0%er for Flying Showman. They could prove me wrong here, though. They do have the chance here. That being said, this is not, I think, a typical Showman deck. I feel like it's a lot more defensive than I think I'm used to. If they're giving us a turn without Sledge, that's a really big deal. So in that case, we can maybe just overpitch here. Hold on to the Sirens. Making sure we're getting our, full point of extra value. Turn Timber on top. You need to make sure we're just like getting the most out of our D-Rex here. But yeah, if they're like not swinging the Sledge at us, that's a really good spot to be in. All right, so I think I'm actually going to pitch this turn Timber away because we already do have the Staunch in Arsenal. And like they've been really passive, so like holding on to another turn Timber doesn't seem worth it, like because they might not even really attack us next turn. Okay, got some Earth cards here, which is good. Let's go ahead and now use our Clash of Arms, and then we can use another Canopy Shelter, go to 8. Oh, and we win the clash there, which is nice as well. Or no, sorry, we lost the clash. We got to put it in the gauntlets. Okay, not the end. Again, it's not really that bad to lose clashes, especially if it's the clash of like that the helmet clash and also the arms clash. Right, but they got some gold, and I guess a bigger token for next turn. And not super impactful for us because we're still just like winning on fatigue. But block with this and block with this. I think I will save these two earth cards though, because the fruits can also be pretty relevant. We're just taking our time here. And again, we are winning at least on deck damage right now. Right, they have the removal, which is nice and efficient. Again, they're not really pressuring our life total, and I think we've actually made it back around to the Siren's Pummel. Kind of funny. So I guess we're doing that. Yeah, seems fine. Go ahead and just take the 6 here. Could have pummeled us, like brought us to 4 or to 6 ourselves, I guess. But we're gonna get a lot of nice value out of this Siren's Skull Pummel, especially if they aren't holding on to a react here. And if they do give us the Civic Peak here, we can actually potentially draw an Earth card and pitch that instead, which would be kind of sick. All right, so we will at least try to threaten the pummel. So they could uncover this with like blue staunch or something, but then they're not swinging sludge, so that's fine. Yeah, we used 2 cards to their 2 cards, so we're still still winning the fatigue game. Again, we did take a little bit of damage there, but we're still gaining life off the sirens. I don't know, maybe there's an argument to like just never even swinging in this matchup, but I think it's fine. So we have the option to send 8 here versus 6. I think let's go ahead and just get that extra little bit of value. Again, we are using like a card in deck, but we're using a card in deck to deal like 2 additional points of damage, so it kind of like maths out because we basically take a card out of their hand. And we're winning on fatigue, so we should make sure we're cashing in on our glacial. Right there you have staunch. Okay. Again, they're also like they're actually maybe a little bit more react heavy than we are. Kind of crazy. So let's see what these gold setups were for. For what's worth, I guess they do also have a bit of armor to work with, so maybe they are kind of ahead on the fatigue game. But that being said, like some of this armor does give us a lot of value, especially like the Civic Guide, right? So I'm curious to see what their follow-up is. I mean, anything they do, we can always staunch, right? So they'd have to have something like very, very good here. We've actually not used a ton of our reacts here, which is also kind of funny. So we pitch the Clash of Arms next to the Macho. I forget what's on top of this, but maybe I'm fine to just like double clash here. Seems okay. And I do win both of them. So I guess we lose our Civic Steps, but I don't even use Civic Steps in this matchup half the time, so it's fine. Who needs to win clashes anyways, am I right? Yeah, we're still ahead by like, we take 2 cards out of them here. Maybe just 1 card or something. I don't know. We're still pretty far ahead on fatigue value, feels. And I know we have that turn timber actually coming back around, so I maybe just want to go ahead and cash in the staunch here. That's reasonable. Go ahead and just use it. Again, especially if they're going to play like super passive, we don't really need to like anything, right? We can also just like Arsenal and Sirens here, I think. It's a fine play. Yeah, if we were to like losing on fatigue value, I'd be like a little bit more hesitant to Arsenal it, but it can save us in case they go for like big pummel play or something, which I don't think we've even seen any of their pummels, right? I don't know. This is an interesting deck. It feels like they're trying to do what we're doing, but worse. There's our turn timber, which I knew was coming back around. Get to send a debilitate here. They can't pummel. We block 8. Seems good. I guess there's no incentive to use the Iron Hides, right? I guess we can just go ahead and cleanly cover 8 of this. And there shouldn't be anything that can really threaten here. Good to me. Again, they have like more D-reacts in the deck, but just because like we're sending Sludge for 7 every turn, like we're kind of out mathing that still, which is kind of fun. And I think they're through most of them. They have one blue unmovable left, potentially one blue staunch. They've used all their clash cards. So their deck is mostly crap at this point. And there's the blue staunch. Good. We still have, I think, our blue staunches, right? Yeah, we still have our blue staunches, so we're not even that bad of shape. The blue staunches actually get better in the late game, right? Because we get to potentially just pitch to the earth to use them. So this is actually an interesting situation. So they're coming in for 10. We have the Oasis here to also cover. So this is actually a good use case for our Sirens. To just like go ahead and full block on this. I guess the question is like, do we care about the Chookslam? We could also just like give the Civic Duty here. I actually hate this. What if we do this, take 3, we don't get crushed, we make a bite on the back, we send the Sirens, make a bite on that, and then Arsenal the Oasis? I think that checks out. I think it's a lot safer to give Vigor to Guardians for what it's worth as opposed to the Quicken. The Quicken is like a death sentence. Never give the Quicken. But you can always give the Vigor pretty safely most of the time. The only thing you got to be a little bit careful about with the Vigor is like Pummel. But yeah, we're still doing really, really good on fatigue. And again, every turn they're not sending damage at us is like a turn where they're like losing fatigue value, right? Because there are only so many turns in a game. Making sure you're sending efficient damage every turn is kind of like the key to this matchup, right? For what it's worth, I do think this is like a little bit of a kind of out there showman deck. I normally don't see them take this like fatigue angle as much. I'll make my there. We have the bigger setup. We're still in really good shape. Let's go ahead and just staunch this now. You have to be a little bit careful about going like completely shields down. But I think it's fine here. Get the Vigor set up. Potentially just like dominate and kill them. I tend to not want to try to go for that. Let's go ahead and just block 5. We do have to be a little bit careful about Pummel, I guess. But I'm not worried. Yeah, Terra math beats most other Guardian math. Pitch the Macho here. We have the one floating. Unfortunately, we didn't have the Earth there, but not the end of the world. And we're still definitely winning this race. All right, they're giving us the full fridge here. Pretty good uses of the Civic equipment, though. They're being really careful to not use the Civic steps, I can tell. Boulder drop again. We haven't seen our opponent presenting Pummel, so we can safely Oasis this, and then it's still be in good shape. Yeah, we do have to be a little bit cautious here. We're gonna take the damage there. I'm assuming we're taking the damage just because we're more likely to lose the clashes than. Let's go ahead and pitch the autumns here. I think I might end up padding my life total with the fruits a bit, just to make sure we're not in like dominate. The bigger they're giving us is actually kind of nice here. The question is whether or not I want to pitch the fruits to make a might, or if I want to pitch the fruits for life. I feel like the way we lose this is by taking dominate damage, so I think I'm pitching this for the life over anything else. Looks like they might be forced to give us their first Civic Steps charge here. That's very good for us. We'll go ahead and pad the life total, put them to 1. And we might not end up actually even using the Quicken token here. So you have a pretty good dominate pitch stack for what it's worth. But again, not having the Pummel to push through is definitely kind of a big deal. So we can do this, go to 1. They actually got really close with this setup, which I think is like not your typical Bravo setup. But it was actually pretty good here. We block 5 here. And then we Sledge, send Sirens. So yeah, the life padding there actually mattered a lot. Okay, maybe not like a fully 0% matchup. Or not like a completely unwinnable matchup for them. Maybe there is some Bravo deck out there that does actually do kind of well. But for what it's worth, we did at least play correctly there. Just making sure we weren't getting got by like the random dominate at the end of the game. Well, they should basically die here because they have to give us another civic steps plus the card from here. I think they maybe see the writing on the wall. Again, they had a really interesting take on Bravo Flattering Showman though. Like basically running every D react in the game, which is pretty good. I mean, we still like beat it, which is kind of funny. But I do think that this particular strategy does struggle into a lot of decks. Like you're basically kind of sacking your Chane matchup. But I guess your like Flattering Showman mirror is pretty good because you're just running basically every. It's basically block swap, right? Just like a slight reskin on block swap. But yeah, that was pretty good, I guess, showcase of like the Terra end game, I guess, and like the making sure you're not using your civic steps early. I think there's definitely some opportunity for potential improvement there. Actually, one thing that I just now noticed is we weren't using our Blade Beckoner gauntlets on the turns that they were sending Sludge, so maybe we actually should have cashed this in a bit earlier. I maybe wasn't even paying attention to that, but that would have actually given us like 1 point of life padding that otherwise probably could have mattered a lot given the kind of like end state of the game. But yeah, this matchup I think is a lot better if they're not on like the block slot plan. If they are on the block slot plan, then I guess it's still doable, as I guess we showcased here since we're kind of like doing a similar thing. But yeah, that was I guess a pretty interesting game to showcase the Guardian Mirror. All right, let's see if we can get another. All right, I actually wanted to show off the Dromai matchup here because I think that this is one of the matchups which I don't think you should be losing most of the time. Let's go ahead and bring in the Oasis here. So I think we're on 2 Oasis, and then we're running the 1 Arcane Polarity for Azalea. We should have a pretty decent setup here. Again, this is a nice, fun Hammer Dragons matchup. Alright, seems like pretty normal Dromai equipment here. Alright, looks like they're definitely a little bit more attack action focused. Good information. Pitching 3 attack actions for the late game. So Scar for Scar is also really good information because it means we do want to ideally be at a lower life total than them. But we'll see how it goes. Again, our main goal here is to try to preserve the density of our 6 attacks in the deck. Halfway tempted to... So I do like arsenaling the Boulder Drop for Ukia is like one of the main reasons to arsenal this card. That is one of the dragons that we do have to like kill directly as opposed to like just like hammering it. Don't quite have the range on that. Yeah, I think we'll just save the Macho in the deck, arsenal the Boulder Drop for a later opportunity. Pass on the heat. A lot of poppers in the opening hand is maybe not a great thing. Could still be fine though. Yeah, it looks like they're on a bit more attack action focuses. Might actually be easier for us. But again, we're going to be on the Hammer Dragon slat, so because of the Mirror Guy, we're not going to be able to pop the first dragon here, but that's fine. They're smart, they'll probably not attack with the Mirror Guy, but we can go ahead and just kill it with the Hammer next turn. Yeah, it's kind of like the Gravy matchup where you just kind of want to like kill everything. Seeing the poppers this early though, like all in a row, is like a little bit concerning. There are only so many in the deck. You have to kind of like, in an ideal scenario, you do kind of like space them out a bit. All right, so I think we're gonna go ahead and take the vanilla damage here, because giving a popper to this is like not optimal. Next, they have the Dromai here. Curious to see if they're actually going to attack with this. All right, well, we fortunately do have the double pop here, so let's go ahead and just use our red poppers. Might not even go for this Kyloria swing if they're onto us. All right, but looks like they will go for it for the Dust Up at least. So the Dust Up is one we do want to block. The question is how. Not really like a super efficient way to do it. You can actually like give the Ironhide here. Because it doesn't have Go again. It's fine. Good enough. We get to use the Ironhide early and then kill Kyloria. seems good enough to me. Again, this matchup is also one of the ones I've not struggled to a ton into. I feel like I've seen a ton of different plans from the Dromai side, and none of them have really out the way the Dromais have won it. Right, so we have a no popper hand here, which is definitely something we're scared of. That being said, we do have the Ubia. That means they might actually be a little bit scared of attacking in the Ubia if they're smart. Ooh, and the Passing Mirage, okay. Unfortunately, we can kill the Ubia on board. The only concern here is the passing, obviously. Question is, do we want to kill the Ubia or the passing? I think let's go ahead and just kill the Ubia. It's one of their better threats. And it does let us like set up the might tokens as well. Get Arsenal staunch and then just hopefully draw 3 closer towards our pop. Arsenal. Make a might, pitch in canopy. Arsenal or staunch here. Alright, found some more poppers, so that's nice. Yeah, they do have the passing Mirage out, so it's going to be a little bit awkward potentially with the Spin Sirikai. That being said, they do have to pitch 3 for it, so not the end of the world. So let's go ahead. We need to make sure we're going to kill. I think we need to kill the Vincere. We need to let the passing, I think, actually go a couple turns. So let's go ahead and give them here. I think it's like the clash here. Kill the Vincere in the next turn. We'll leave the passing. Let the passing go for a little bit. We can also block the Ashwing here. Nice clean blocks. And just trying to preserve our popper density a little bit here. Alright, kill the Sirikai. Again, the passing living is definitely awkward. Like, it's definitely a priority, but Sirikai being on the board is definitely also is kind of scary. Okay, good hand as well. We'll deal with this eventually. Also, the art in this card is always just the illusionist art, like the normal illusionist and not like the talented illusionist is always like some of the best art in the game. Like one of my favorite ones, I guess, is the like the cold foils, not Spears of Serality. What's the other one? One that gives like a bunch of counters. It's like a passing rush, but gives a bunch of counters. And I'm like blanking on the name right. So let them have the Chromite here. So they're gonna get like 2 action points, but we still have the pop for it, so that's fine. We can actually just give them the pump if we want to. Yeah, we have a lot of armor to work with, so just pad the life total a little bit. That being said, they could punish us with like an on hit or whatever. That's fine. Chromai is also one of those kill on sight dragons. I guess we're just popping this, right? And pop up this siren. And making sure we're cleaning those dragons, especially if they're more attack action. Clear that Chromai. We're IPing with this just so that we have like a guaranteed popper for next turn. Even though they have the passing Mirage, if they go like double dragon, we want to make sure that we can punish them for that. And then we would not have thrown a popper if we did bottom it potentially. So you just gotta be really careful about that. Getting 3 off the deep loop or something. Right, so they're going with Azalea, which we cannot pop. Oh, and an Ubia. Okay. So we do have the boulder drop for the Ubia as well. See how greedy they actually want to get here. I feel like the safe play. Oh, they have the Dustbreaker. Interesting. So I think I'm actually supposed to go for the staunch here. And then I think we're supposed to boulder drop. We could also let the Ubia live for a little bit. We do have to clear that passing at some point, though. We'll see what they do. We have the Ashman coming in, so this one is not... Or no, this one is preventable, right? So we could kill the passing... Log the boulder drop, kill the passing... Go to next turn? 26 to 26. Like mildly tempting. You can also just get the Ubia out of the way. Passing is starting to add up, though. I think I'll just take the damage here, actually. I think if they want to attack with the Azalea, I might kill that instead. Oh, they have the ability to make, I guess, another Ashwing here. Interesting. I think this is not enough damage to the point where we care, though, yet. Let's see if I can get them to actually attack with the So we want to make sure. I guess we could also theoretically give them the civic steps, but we don't want to do that for scar purposes. Let's give them this buckler here. We just keep our life total relatively high. They do go for the UVO, we will snap pop it though. Alright, so let's go for Boulder Drop on the Ubia. Just make sure we keep their dragon count a bit lower. And we'll overpitch here since we want to try to go towards our poppers. And one of these days we will find an excuse to kill this passing Mirage, but not today. For now, we will just let it sit on the board forever. Okay. Passing Mirage is really not the worst thing in the world, to be honest, though. It's a billing, they get to turn Ashwing, that's fine. Again, no real reason. We're going to just keep the game nice and slow, take a little bit of damage. Hopefully they do attack with Azalea pretty soon. They should attack with Azalea now, right? No. Okay, they're opting for the Ashwing instead. So this one does not have. Wait, does this one have hit? Wait, hold on. What do they do? Oh, this is an illusion stack. Wait, so actually the first illusion is so we can't actually pop this one, right? Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and pop this one then. Sure. To me. So now is, I think, a good opportunity to go ahead and just kill the passing, since we actually kind of want them to attack with the or no, sorry. We want to kill the passing here over the Azalea. With the Azalea being on the board actually turns on our polarity, which is kind of funny. Alright, passing down. And we're at lower life total, so they do have 2 Scar for Scars in their deck that are just like doing nothing, basically. Assuming that we don't give the Civic Steps too early. Right, there's another pseudo passing Mirage, I guess. We can deal with that one, though. Okay, so actually we don't have a popper here, which is concerning. Okay, hopefully we're not going to be taking too much damage here, though. There is a real concern here, though. Pick 1. Polarity back up to 4. I just need to be really careful here. Oh, they have a break the coals. Okay. I guess that's actually pretty annoying, right? Ooh, these the early like popper density was, I think, really cool for us. Like seeing all of our poppers that early actually might be a pretty big detriment here. That being said, we can still hammer the mirror guy next turn, so we're not like completely out of it. But let's just make sure to get the most out of our block cards. This should basically be their sign that we maybe don't have a popper here. I think I'm good to take another 2 here. I can also give them the civic steps here because we do have the double clash cards to potentially punish them if they do go for like Scar or whatever. Maybe actually civics cash in makes the most sense here. They shouldn't be able to get too much value out of it. Drop a Dragon Blood, interesting. So that's one of the ways they can cheat the resources a little bit. So that'd go again anyway, so the Quicken token didn't matter there. Alright, go ahead and block that. And again, making sure that you're keeping the board nice and clear for the non-popper hands is really important. Alright, no follow-up is nice. Let's make sure we're just filtering our hand as much as possible, killing the mirror guy, and then we'll eventually come back around to our poppers. Again, making sure you're navigating the no popper hands is really important. For what it's worth, we also got 2 Uvias out of the way. Like, we got a lot of their more important dragons actually gone. So we're not doing too bad here. And there's our popper, which is great. So now we can really start, I think, turning a corner. This will get popped. We can go ahead and maybe just cash in a little bit that bit of value out of this fruits and kill this Azalea. And then we can also just make a bite on the back end in case we need to kill something bigger. Pitch our fruits. A clash card just so we don't have in our hand. Keeping that board nice and clear. Again, they still have two Scar for Scars that are basically doing nothing in their deck right now. And one of them, I guess, is on top of their deck, which is kind of funny. Go ahead and use our block cards to cover this. Again, the name of the game here is keeping the board, even if that's kind of like at the expense of other things. So we're even gonna like not send 5 at them and just kill this Ashwing just in case they have like reacts in hand or something else, and then we can go ahead and just arsenal the Sirens in case we maybe have like a 4 that we need to kill, like a Yenderai or something. It's possible. Okay, back around to our poppers, which is nice. They're gonna play on a passing. We're gonna kill it, and we're basically golden here. Again, it was looking a little scary that like one turn where we just like didn't find a popper, but we just leaked a bunch of damage, and now we are back around to our poppers, which is nice. So unfortunately, we will probably have to use one here just for blocking value, but they might be mostly out of dragons at this point. I think we still haven't seen the Yenderais though. Now we can maybe start sending a little bit of damage. Maybe they have like a block card or like a sand cover or something on the horizon there. They're basically out of like really meaningful threats at this point. I think they also have like a Blaze Headlong in hand or something. If we're back around to their like first fish stack. Now we can just IP with the 2 hoppers for now. Let's go ahead and block with our Canopy Shelter. We can actually even just like Flourish on our next turn just to push a little bit extra damage. We're still in good shape here. Again, I'm just going to hold on to these 2 for as long as possible because there could still be another dragon coming. We're still holding 1 here. They've used both Chromais, both Mirror Guys. So I don't think there's really a ton of great options for them left. Oh, there's a Glacial too. Yeah, we still got a decent amount of stuff in the tank. Right, they have a Kyloria left and maybe 2 Yenderai still. Played their red card, so now that gets go again. Seems good. Go ahead and just staunch this. Preserve the deck total a bit. And the name of the game here is still Fatigue. They use both Scar for Scars, both Rabble, so what Gogan stuff they really have left? It'd be fine to just go ahead and catch in the Civic Duty, honestly. Worst case scenario, if they have like a Snatch or something, the 3+1 on it. I will also just like take the opportunity to clear the balance counter if they don't go for the top here, but it looks like they're going to go for it anyways. Go ahead and make the might. Send 5 on their turn. The funny thing about the Vigor is actually it might slow down their Ash production. I guess it doesn't really matter at this point in the game, but kind of a funny side effect is that it might have trouble pitching there. I think we've navigated to the end game really well here. They do still have some potential like dragons and stuff they can make, but they're running pretty low. I think we're still waiting on another Dust Up, right? That's one card we haven't seen, and they still do have the big like Phantasm attacks that I think we saw them pitch. Maybe they still have one of these like Ember Maw Centipies or whatever. Right, they do have another Azalea. It's another pretty good threat. Saying they're not going for the Ashwing back first. To each their own, I suppose. We might be at the point now where we do want to be a little bit careful just about popping. Oh, they ping. Wait, do they ping themselves so they could do? Oh, they can gain their polarity. That's kind of hilarious. That's actually the first time I've seen that. That's actually kind of cool. It's always fun. Wait, do they? Oh, wait, they double do it? Oh, they double did it. Oh, that's crazy. That's actually sick. I've never seen that. I mean, I don't think it was good, but sure. Kind of funny. It's like sigil sauce, I guess. All right, so how many poppers do we actually have left on the deck? We have one more disable, one more thunderquake, and then maybe some other blues. Maybe that's it actually. Could still be enough though. All right, no popper in this hand, but it's fine. And they should be pretty low in terms of like dragon count at this point. We killed most of the important ones, I think. Oh, they still have a Kyloria, don't they? Maybe a little bit careful about that. So there's their Doom. Oh, and a Vincerikai. Okay. So we still got a little bit of work to do. Go ahead and make the most of our clash cards, though. I think the Oasis is not going to do them a ton of favors, though. One important thing to note about Flourish is it doesn't actually apply to Titan's Fist, so I couldn't like Flourish here if I wanted to. But it's actually probably better to make the Might here anyways, in terms of like deck damage. So what are the cards? They have a Kyloria, Yendarai. Hey, they're only running one. I don't know if I saw the other one. And a Vincerikai. So their hand is Kyloria, Vincerikai, Oasis, Yendarai, Vincerikai, Oasis. What other cards have we seen them pitch? They also have one of these like Doombreaker or whatever's, right? They have one more of these, the Ember Moss Centipi. Okay, so there's the Kyloria. So there's the Oasis. So if I'm tracking correctly, they should have one more of the Ember Moss and then one more of the. I'm gonna just pop this though. Maybe another Yendarai in there somewhere. I think we're basically out of poppers though. We have one more disable, I guess. We actually got pretty close there towards the end. Maybe we got a little bit greedy at blocking some of the Ashwings, and we did also leak a lot of damage that one turn. We just didn't find a popper. That's as matchup goes sometimes, though. I think we're still winning for what it's worth. Oh, we do have a Thunderquake. Okay, we're pretty much good here, I think. So it's 2 Oasis and the Ember Maw, then Yendarai Arsenal or something. So I think we basically have this on lock now. We block the Thunderquake. And I think it's just that last Yendarai Arsenal, right? Unless it's something other random, like maybe it's like a sand cover or whatever. But yeah, super easy to fatigue Dromai. Oh, it was Rake Over the Coals. Okay, I guess that actually maybe makes also a bit of sense. Maybe they're trying to go for some like late game, set up a bunch of Ashwings, kill you a combo with the Rake Over the Coals or something. It's kind of cute. But yeah, I don't typically struggle too much in this matchup. Again, you just have to make sure you're like navigating the hands where you don't have a popper, and that's like the kind of like the most important thing. All right, so we're at 1 minute 46. I'm gonna do one last game just to round it out of 2 hours. How about that? Let's do this Azalea. See how this goes. Wait, they doing a? Oh, they're doing casual. Okay, I don't want to actually like brief them with my my competitive Terra deck instead of a casual Terra deck. All right, one last game to round out the night. So how have we been doing? Let's actually take a look at our new list and see how we're doing. Not 100%. We definitely did stop one game. Just to be expected. Ours a little bit of a tougher matchup, especially like some builds are actually like a lot better at this deck against this deck than like other builds. I feel like there's trade-offs, right? Like some decks are better at beating like Black Slop and me struggling like Chane or whatever. Chane seems to be like the biggest problem for Ira, to be honest. But yeah, sitting at 83% is nothing to scoff at, I guess, on our new version of the list. I did play like 10 practice games beforehand just to get some good reps in. But yeah, let's see what the last game I guess holds for us. Against an Azalea, let's do this. I think this matchup is definitely pretty good. Let's bring in that Oasis. And I think we're running one Pummel just for solo. We can also run the one Pummel, but Pummel's overrated. Rather just have the 2-card play as opposed to the 4-card play, I guess. Let's go ahead and just overpitch the pummel here. Save it for second cycle and just gain a little bit of life to kind of pad the life total here. Sitting on a staunch and arsenal, which is quite nice. Again, you do have to be very careful about playing around release the tension in this matchup. It's kind of like the biggest like power card they have against us because it does stuff our D-Reacts. We have a yellow sleep dart and a red infecting shot. Okay, interesting set of arrows here. I'm always curious, like Azalea is like a really interesting like deck building puzzle, more so than like a play puzzle. I guess they're kind of like related though, right? You do have to like I guess what I'm trying to say. Like you do have to have like a good game plan that you can like execute, right? But there's also I feel like a lot of variety in terms of like the deck construction, which gets kind of interesting. So 11 here, we staunch, gain a bit of life. Let's use our staunch earlier rather than later. You tried to hit me with the spicy razor reflex here, but I kind of doubt that most Azaleas are. But this is really nice. We get to just send some damage on the back. Right here. We also get to pad our life total just a little bit further. Yeah, going first in this matchup's always very, very nice. Right, it's giving us the Wayfinder's Crest. This is look at the top card target heroes deck. So they get, I guess, a little bit of hand for me for next turn. Go ahead and discard the fruits, pad the total, and then ooh, we get the nice staunch, which is not an arsenal, which is actually sometimes pretty convenient. This would be actually a really nice hand for if they didn't send like a big dominate thing in us. If they instead went for like just a non-dominate arrow covering 10 and arsenal staunch is a pretty good turn. Again, this is a matchup where you can like hard fatigue as opposed to doing like the Titan's Fist fatigue. Like Ira is a bit more like active fatigue, right? Where you have to like actively be sending damage. Like you can't just like kind of sit back and like not Titan's Fist. But Azalea is kind of like one of those matchups where you have like you can just kind of try to block everything and eventually they'll run out of steam. Like they don't have like the onboard thing like Kadachi's, right? Right, so they're drawing the card they saw off the top, which is a headshot. I guess the question is, do they have a way to go off the top? The Rabble is not actually that bad a hit for them because they can just play in the bullseye, but they do have to use the bullseyes, which is a big deal. And then they're not getting dominate, which is maybe an even bigger deal for us. So yeah, we'll give the 4 block there. There is like kind of a punish for this if they go for like inertia, and we were like forced to use our staunch. So I'm debating here. So they have a sleep dart. They do have a lace with inertia and pitch. I think I'm just gonna try to lean into using the D-Reacts now as opposed to later. Go ahead and just cash it in. Keep the life total high. And eventually they will run out of steam. And I guess we could have made a might there, but it doesn't matter too much. And we've given them like the full tempo here, but we should still be in a pretty decent spot. Let's see if they're gonna get another dominate. With Spire Sniping, it's like pretty likely, right? But it looks like they're not really running a ton of pumps from the looks of it. It looks like they're running a lot more arrows, so they might be predisposed to whiffing. So you get a Bolton shot here. Coming in for 12 with a reload on the back. So we can staunch this. We do have the inertia to still worry about, but that's kind of fine. And let's just soak up as much damage here as possible. We don't really care about the frailty and inertia too much. And again, if we're like playing out our D-Reacts from hand, we don't have to worry about like release the tension as much. If you do go for like the load shoot here, we do have the clash to cover that kind of. All right, looks like they're not going to go for it though. Fine. Go ahead and just let the clash card go. And we just want to be very, very passive in this matchup. Like eventually they will run out of steam if you just give them time. Like, they might hit us for like 16 here or something, but even then that's still okay. So let's make sure we're getting the block value in. So let's go ahead and like block like this. So this is making sure that we can like block with our full hand basically because we can discard the fruits. So just getting in the opportunities to block early is also quite nice. And yeah, we don't really have to worry about their life total too much. Oh, they're just gonna pass though. Okay. Okay with this. We get to now send a 7 damage turn, which we otherwise would not have been able to send. Yeah, this matchup has felt very, very good. Like they can still like definitely roll you with the right set of like buffs and draws, but for the most part, it feels like you just have a ton of agency in this matchup. And there's the release the tension, which is not even good because we just like don't. They're also pitching another. See if they get dominated here, we could be taking a really good chunk. But we also could potentially send the disable in the back as well. So Battlefront Bastion being a little awkward here, and I ideally not like to take the Lace with Blood Rot. So what happens if we block 9? Then we also have to give up the Steel Braid. I'm gonna say this card right one day. Steel Braid Buckler. Then we can give up the Helm, and then also do we want to give up the Civic Steps? The Civic Steps is like I'm gonna like wait on the Civic Duty, I think. Because the Civic Steps normally represents like undominated damage. Like if they do like quicken into bullseye, I'm kind of like fine with that. Like, as long as it doesn't have dominate, we can kind of just soak it up with our hand. It's mostly like we're mostly concerned with like damage that is not dominated. That's like where we're really concerned. So giving them a quicken here might seem like awkward because they can like shoot, load, send in like a bullseye something or whatever, but it's probably fine. This will be a nice one to at least wrap it up on. So we've been doing pretty well. I guess we lost the one to Ira, but that's kind of to be expected. Ira is a pretty good deck. And I do think for what it's worth that Oldhim has a little bit of an easier time against Ira. The matchup spreads for the like Oldhim versus Terra are really interesting because I feel like Terra does really well into like Chane and really well into like a lot of the how do you say it, like the more like Terra's a bit more proactive it feels like, but Oldhim's got like a little bit more like setup stuff. That being said, I've seen like some Oldhim lists that are a little bit more proactive. Like I think coming out of Valencia, there's one that was running a ton of like attack actions and like and stuff, but there's also like an opportunity cost to doing that as well. Let's see the dominates. They got a headshot. They're just sending a headshot here. I might just like block 3 and arsenal the Oasis. Oh, yellow toxicity. Okay. I guess that's something we have to be a little bit careful on the second cycle to make sure we're not getting hit by it. So let's go and leak a little bit of damage here. Make sure we're keeping our armor total high, and then we can sit on the Oasis. Might heal. Infecting shot. Let's see if we can finish before 2 hours. I'm trying to like speed run this, I guess. This is their nimblest. And just keep blocking though. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it seems like they're just really struggling to push through the last little bit of damage. We do still have to worry about that yellow toxicity, so I'm gonna probably end up leaking a bit of damage here if they keep going for like dominate. There's a lace, so they can still send here. One thing I know Azaleas can do in this matchup is like just like click Azalea every turn, and then if you don't see any damage, just like pass. But then there is like a cost to that, and that I can like chip you down. Like we would have the punish to that here if they went for that because we could flex simple. So turn timber is a little awkward. I think we're still gonna try to block this. Go ahead and give them the quicken here. I don't think they're gonna have multiple ways to reload, or at least they shouldn't at this point. I guess we can also hold on to staunch in case we need to like block 5. Because we can like just use the one floating. Yeah, it's not even super efficient. Maybe we should have etched the staunch instead. It might bite us, but we'll see. think that is their. They have one more Lace with Inertia, maybe. Still definitely got some good stuff. Okay, there's pass. Send the boulder drop now, which should be sufficiently enough. I think their best play here is to just like not block this. Just take the damage. Because otherwise they're basically losing 2 cards and like their deck density does matter. So like keeping cards in the deck is very important. Oh, it looks like they are going to go for the blocks. Maybe they just didn't have anything better to do. Also a real possibility. Right, there's release, but it's not going to really matter too much against double Oasis, right? And we can just overpitch these two, hold on to double Oasis, and I think we basically got the game unlocked. Like, I don't think there's any set of cards they can have in these 10 cards that deal 20 damage, right? The funny thing about Renounce is actually they don't get their, like, um, these on hits from, like, Infecting Shot or whatever. Kind of funny. There's that Toxicity. It might have another one. I haven't really been keeping too close attention, but all right, let's see if they got the Dominate. They got the yellow Infecting Shot now. Oh, they do have another Toxicity. Okay. They have come prepared. Maybe this is the pitch stack they were going for. So this is the next Ranger Assassin. So we just need to block this with Civic Duty, double Oasis, and then we're fine, right? We can also like sit on one Oasis, which I think is a smarter play. No, I think a double Oasis is actually just like too efficient, right? We could actually give the Iron Hides. Actually, maybe the Iron Hides is probably the best. Let's do it like this. One here, double Oasis. Still that one Toxicity, but we should care about that at this point. I think we got him here. Toxicity is a spicy one, though. Pretty good against, like, the non-defensive decks. Go ahead and Oasis. Oasis. Are probably cursing this deck right now. We do have a nice, like, humble turn. They can't, like, dominate us to finish it off. Although I think their pitch is Toxicity, right? That doesn't even matter. I guess it's more so for style points than anything. And this isn't even really a fatigue game at this point. Like we kind of just have beaten them on damage as well. These two sit at a nice healthy 17, 7-6. Life is good. They have a 4-card hand that's yellow Bolton Shot, Toxicity, Headshot, Infecting Shot. Okay. So yeah, opponent was that's actually kind of spicy. The yellow Toxicity. It kind of makes sense for like the 1-cost curve, so you're like a little bit more insulated against fatigue. That being said, fatigue is still Azalea is just like nightmare matchup. So again, we did run out to D-Rex at the end, but that being said, we were sitting at 17 at the end of the game, so maybe we didn't really need the D-Rex. But yeah, I think that's pretty good. Much gonna call it there. So we've been playing for 2 hours. Let's go ahead and review our results. So I think we're sitting at. So I think we managed to play 6 games, right? 6 games. We got. I think I started with a 10% or the 10-game win streak. So the only game we lost was that Ira game, which is fine. Again, Ira is definitely a little bit of a tougher matchup. I think we did maybe get a little cute with our Civic stuff to that game. Maybe that was the big punish. They were just able to really capitalize on that Quicken token on the snatch turn was maybe our biggest issue. But yeah, Ira still continues to be a little bit of a tougher matchup. We almost got there though. I think it was like a lot closer than I think it seemed. But yeah, I'm trying to make the board a little bit better for Ira because I know that matchup is just it's still going to be played even though I think it's like bad, kind of. So working on maybe trying to improve that with like the Battlefront Bastions, which I think do help a little bit. That being said, the breakpoints are still like really awkward on this card, so maybe it's just as a one of. But yeah, I think there's definitely some flexibility here with like the blue slot. Maybe you can kind of retune the blue base or like just some of the auto like the main deck a little bit to be a bit better into Ira. And that's kind of what I'm trying to go for by kind of these somersaults, bringing the flourish, which is maybe like a little bit less earth, but a little bit more like flexibility, basically. But yeah, that's basically going to be the video for today. So I encourage you to maybe watch this video back and just like maybe see if we can improve some of those other win rates. Like the Bravo flattering showing win rate should be a lot higher. The Briar win rate should be higher. Chane win rate was doing great. And then I think the Ira win rate and like the Dromai win rate could also be a little bit higher. But anyways, I encourage you all to keep trying with this deck. Again, I think it's a lot. It's a pretty difficult deck. So like 60% win rate is still like pretty good, I think, for community results. But again, some of these matchups tighten them up a little bit. I think they're a lot easier than they might seem on paper. And yeah, I think there's actually still like a really like a lot of good value to this deck, and I think that it does deserve a place in the meta, like kind of alongside like Oldhim and stuff. Like I think you all are kind of like demonstrating that actually with like the Chane win rate and the Ira win rate being like pretty reasonably high. So appreciate you all like testing the deck again. I hope you all are enjoying the like public deck list as well as the notes and everything. But yeah, keep at it. You guys are doing actually pretty good. So continue to test, continue to practice the deck, and I think it will show some pretty good results if you're going to play it in an upcoming event. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. And a special thank you to all the folks who decided it would be a good idea to give us $2 on Patreon. We really appreciate the support, but it's obviously never required.